Good morning. Welcome to Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We are so happy that you've chosen this sanctuary and time and that you're here to something to celebrate. We extend an especially warm welcome to our visitors and we'll be waiting to chat with you at the welcome desk after the service. Remember, we were all newcomers once. And if you're joining us online, please say hi in the chat. We now invite everyone to rise and greet one another.
You did great. Okay, but we gotta have, if you don't want, okay, yeah. Good morning. Each year, the two final weekends of October, we set aside in our annual liturgical calendar to focus on processing the personal and spiritual aspects of death and loss. Today, we will be hearing from Reverend Jill Jarvis, who I'm very grateful is here preaching for us today. And next week, we will be having our annual service where we remember those we have lost. That means that we'll be creating a space up here for you to bring a photo or a little piece of memorabilia for someone who you'd like to remember during the service. We do this in honor of All Hallows Eve and Halloween. And in that same spirit, today after the service will be the first of two Plan Your Own Memorial workshops. We'll meet in the boardroom, and the second one will be on November 2nd after the service. Today, also, the Women in Femmes will be having a community feedback installation in the fellowship hall, and it'll be up for the next few weeks. It's on the wall by the library, so just write anything you'd like to, any feedback that you have for the Women in Femmes. And today, after the service, we will have our monthly Tall in the Fall meeting to discuss goals, collaborate, share processes, and learn together, meeting in the multipurpose room at 11:45 with Miss Micah Rose. And then on Saturday, the Kansas City Lesbians are hosting a trunk or treat here at church from 5 to 8 p.m. In the back parking lot. There will be a petting zoo and face painting. And also the beloved community that we were going to have today after church has been moved, and if you have a question about that, you can talk to Micah.
Worlds are on fire. Perhaps your corner of the world, or yours, mine, sometimes sure, ours, more and more. The whole world ablaze. Fire or not, this is no time to shrink or shirk. While despair or grief may enter the room of your heart, it is not the only occupant there. There's more to you. There is more to us than that sticky residue of pain. Your heart keeps company with ancestors who lent you deep wisdom, abiding love, scientific curiosity, wellsprings of compassion, and humor when all else fails. It's time to connect, to feel the deep truth of no separation. It's time to thrive, though there are times you doubt it possible. This thing is our thing. This time is our time. It is to this moment each is called. All are called. Called to hope, or not? Called to heal beyond borders. Called to resist, insist, persist. Called to hold back the flames. Everything is on fire, but all is not lost. It's good we gather together. Come, let us worship.
As Lucas comes forward to light our chalice, we invite you to join us as we recite our covenant. Let us affirm that love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with one another.
May I have all the children up front? friends. So good to see all of you. Okay, so today I'm just going to read us a little story, and then we're going to do a little meditation. Does that sound okay? We feel good with that? Okay, here's the story. So once upon a time, there was a little bird named Pip who loved to sing. One day, a big gray cloud of worry floated into Pip's nest. The cloud made his little wings feel heavy and his song feel quiet. Has that ever happened to you where you just wake up and you're like, ugh? Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, oh, daily, wow, that's a lot. So instead of flapping his wings to fly away from the cloud, Pip decided to be brave. He closed his eyes and he took a very slow breath. He imagined his body was soft as a feather, letting the air fill him up and then float away. The heavy feeling in his wings began to feel a little bit lighter. Pip knew the gray cloud was just a feeling and not a storm, and he didn't have to push it away or grab onto it. He just let the cloud sit there for a moment, like a little fluffy pillow, and watched it. He knew it was okay for the cloud to be there. Pip asked himself, what do I need right now? And he knew he needed a little bit of sunshine, because don't we all, truly? So he imagined the sun peeking out from behind the cloud, warming his little feathers, and he gave himself a small hug with his wings and a loving thought. So Pip looked out and saw other little birds in their nest. He realized that sometimes they had gray clouds too, and he wasn't the only one. Just knowing that made him feel connected and not so alone. And the cloud began to shrink, and he felt a little bit of his happy song return. Pip knew that even on cloudy days, he could be kind to himself and his feelings. And he knew that sunshine would always be there, even if it was just in his heart. So before we go, I want us to do a little meditation. Okay, put your feet, if you're out here, flat on the floor, settle yourself, find a comfortable position on the floor. Okay, I want us to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. I want you to imagine a soft blanket wrapped around you. Imagine it hugging you. Notice your breath. Let feelings float by like clouds in the sky. Be kind to yourself right now. Ask, what do I need right now? Take in a big deep breath and expand your chest. One more time. Everyone has something that they need. This week, I would like for you to make sure that you give it to yourself. And remember that everyone feels all kinds of feelings all the time, and that you are not alone. One more big deep breath. You may open your eyes.
Each month, we as a community take time to reflect on a theme. The children do it in their classes, and we do it here in worship and in our small groups. This month, the theme is cultivating compassion. When my mom died, my siblings and I split her album collection draft style. Her vinyl records were the most tangible reminder of her legacy. They knew her by name at Love Garden, the record store in Lawrence. In junior high, she would take my friends and me to Barnes & Noble to browse the music selection. And my crush would talk to her, not me, about the Foo Fighters and Bush's new albums. And despite being considerably less cool than her, my mom did pass along for me a love for The Doors and Bruce Springsteen. To this day, if I put on David Bowie's Heroes, I hear her singing along. My father had terrible taste in music. He thought CD players were money-sucking machines and was happy to listen to his old Gordon Lightfoot and Moody Blues tapes on repeat. He made me save my own money to buy a copy of Smashing Pumpkins' The Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness when I swore I would die if I didn't get it. The only time he ever liked a popular song was the summer of 1997, when he bought the single, it was so much cheaper than the full album, of the Verve Pipe's The Freshman, and listened to it on repeat. It's a tearjerker of a song about lost love and lost innocence. Not exactly a summer bop. I blame him for my love of sad songs. Since Aristotle, we have understood that experiencing tragic art allows us to experience catharsis and a release of negative emotions. We enjoy sad songs because they profoundly move us. This experience is sometimes called kamamutta, a Sanskrit term meaning moved by love. That sadness in art makes us feel more connected to others. We actually release the hormone prolactin when listening to sad songs, which helps us to form attachments to other people. But why do we feel moved when we hear minor keys, slow tempos, and narrow pitch ranges? James Baldwin gets at this when he wrote, "The things that tormented me the most were the very things that connected me with all the people who were alive, who had ever been alive." Music is one way of cultivating compassion, both for ourselves and for others. We aren't alone in our pain and sorrow, and we can viscerally experience the emotions of others secondhand through songs. Much to my sister's chagrin, I'm passing along what Madeline thinks is my terrible taste in music to my niece Ripley, who now loves Taylor Swift. I wasn't always a Swiftie, but I fell in love with folklore the summer of 2020 as I drove across the country from California to Colorado to meet my niece for the first time, when it felt like the world was ending, when we were all feeling so disconnected and isolated from one another. The first notes of the song, The One, E flat followed by A flat, released a torrent of emotions in me I've been holding back, just trying to survive those early days of the chaos of the pandemic. Music is a complex system of expression tied to human cognitive development and social bonding. It is used for storytelling, for cultural rituals, and transmitting social information across generations. Passed down by folk songs, our love lasts so long. I never feel closer to my mom than when I sing along to Dancing in the Dark or LA Woman, or closer to my dad than when I listen to Nights in White Satin or If You Could Read My Mind. I hope as Ripley grows up, she thinks of living room dance parties to Lizzo and Shake It Off when she thinks of me, and that I get to take her to her first real concert, as every cool aunt should. She did not accompany me to Chapel Roan, but not because she doesn't like to sing along to Pink Pony Club. It was just past her bedtime. But most of all, I'll be there with that perfect playlist the first time she has her heart broken, full of Adele and Jewel, Bon Iver and Iron and Wine. For my mom, Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now. And for my dad, Fire and Rain by James Taylor. And yeah, there's gonna be some Taylor Swift. Music is the invisible string that connects us to our nostalgia for the past, to the stories we carry in the marrow of our bones, and to the hope that the future can be a better place.
An interpretation of the much-loved song, Danny Boy, is that it is sung by a grieving father who has lost his first two sons to war, and now the third son has joined up. The father rightly fears that this is their last goodbye. Either the son won't return, or when he does, the father will already be in his grave. It's a song of love and longing, of despair and hope. Today we'll be contemplating our relationships with those who came before and who will come after. My father, who had a beautiful tenor voice, loved to sing Danny Boy, so it holds great meaning for me. As the choir offers us this lovely and soulful gift, may we now feel those themes resonate with us.
We come to this place to see and be seen, to teach and be taught, to hear and be heard. I invite you to reach over and nudge the person sitting next to you, reminding them and yourselves that we are gathered together in peace and in authenticity and in intention. We also come to this place to share our joys and sorrows. We will now pause our live stream to give our community some privacy to share. If you have a rare joy or a profound sorrow, please come forward and briefly share in 2 to 3 seconds.
I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer. Great mystery which grounds us and surrounds us. Divine presence known by many names and in many ways. Be with us. Spirit of love, we come weary from the news of the world. We come hungry for justice and out of patience for the wrongdoing by those in power. We come seeking community, seeking to see and be seen. For who we are, for all our struggles and all our joys, we seek a humble, joyful life lived in alignment with our deepest values. And some days it feels like a massive struggle to simply show up to one another, to the dawn of a new day and the headlines it brings, to the changes and transitions of life. Spirit of hope and resilience, remind us that all is not lost. Though destruction and chaos get worse and worse, may we hold fast to the conviction that it is always worth fighting, always worth lifting our voices, always worth staying in relationship and doing the hard work. That the end is not yet written, and the future may be changed by our own hands and hearts. May the spiritual discipline of love lead us always to seek the best in others and to hold those responsible for harm accountable in firm but gentle ways. May we hold ourselves accountable to truth and love before all else. Spirit, community, ancestors, descendants, we are worn and we are weary, and we commit ourselves to the cause of love again and again and again, as many times as it takes. Amen. Blessed be.
From Marjorie by Taylor Swift. The autumn chill that wakes me up. You loved the amber skies so much. Long limbs and frozen swims. You'd always go past where our feet could touch. And I complained the whole way there, the car ride back, up the stairs. I should have asked you questions. I should have asked you how to be. Asked you to write it down for me. Should have kept every grocery store receipt, because every scrap of you would be taken from me. Watched as you signed your name, Marjorie. All your closets of backlog dreams, and how you left them all to me.
Ancestors Never Sleep by Alice Walker. Ancestors never sleep and always seem to know what they're doing. How is this possible? I ask myself. Sometimes I am weary enough to expire. What a relief, I will think. No more obsessing about this madness, whatever it might be this year or even this century. But ancestors merely yawn and send me off for a nap. Not only is life not over, they sniff, it has barely begun for you. There are eternities waiting just beyond the next bad movie you fear you'll be starring in. Go to sleep. Rest your brain. Rest your heart. Rest your eyes and all your thoughts. We have been with you from the beginning, which didn't exist, and we will be with you until that moment of non-existence swings around again. We are attempting to carry the suffering all around you, but your back is bending. Let us bear it for you, knowing as we do that it is only a difficult turn on a never-ending journey of dissolving and becoming and dissolving again and becoming once more, forever and ever, on and on. Save despair, our beloved sweet cakes, for a couple of eons later. Reverend Heidi Newmark had been a Lutheran pastor in New York City for over 30 years, called to minister to a multi-ethnic church community of people targeted by others' hate and devastated by injustice. New immigrants, the children of the deported, homeless gay and lesbian youth, young transgender people whose parents refuse to even acknowledge their existence. Her sense of religious calling was so strong that sometimes she felt there just had to be other Lutheran pastors in her very Lutheran family tree going back generations on both sides, though she'd never actually encountered evidence of any. Heidi's father had immigrated from Germany in 1938, arriving in New York with a doctorate in chemical engineering. His very wealthy parents had realized that with Germany going to war, their son would likely have a more stable future in the States. So they bought him passage on a ship sailing to New York, where he quickly established himself working at first for the Army and then for a chemical company. 3 of Heidi's great-grandparents on her mother's side had immigrated from Germany in the 19th century. So, during Heidi's childhood, she was an only child, her family was big on celebrating the German heritage. Heidi's parents bought her German children's books and toys. They gave German-themed parties that filled the house with the smells of homemade sauerkraut. There was always warm Stollen for Christmas breakfast. She loved hearing stories about her parents' childhood. And while her mother was very forthcoming, her father, much less so. Heidi knew he'd grown up with servants, a cook, chauffeur, groundskeeper, governess, on an estate large enough to have a pond and tennis courts. There were old photos of her father hunting and skiing with his dad, but not many stories. So eventually, Heidi sometimes wondered, what had her German grandparents done during the war? Could they have been Nazi collaborators? Or were they like the ordinary Germans who saw the Jews in their communities disappearing and just went about their own business? She'd been told that her grandfather died of a heart attack before she was born. And her grandmother, whom she'd visited a few times in Switzerland, had died when Heidi was 12. And her father died when she was 26, and her mother more recently. So one Saturday, just after midnight, when she's sound asleep, as every minister at midnight is on Saturday, not, Heidi gets a phone call from her 22-year-old daughter, Anna, who is actually just downstairs and messing around on the computer looking for family names. Mom, did you know that you're Jewish? Did you know that your grandfather died in a concentration camp and that your grandmother was a camp survivor? Because the evidence is all over Wikipedia. Heidi almost laughs. But does she go back to sleep knowing Sunday morning is fast approaching? She does not. Instead, she stays up for hours Googling, and in her book, Hidden Inheritance, Family Secrets, Memory, and Faith, she writes, I was sucked into a vortex of revelations as one website pulled me into another and then to another, imploding the old verities of my life. Of course, these revelations have been life-changing for Reverend Newmark in the few years she's had to explore them. Going back to the German village where her father grew up, which still, after all these years after the war, has no more Jews. She's found records. She's connected with long-lost cousins. She's realized that her mother never knew the truth. She's found that in her father's family, there were several rabbis. She cringes with regret, remembering a poem that she'd written to her father when she was 17, expressing her longing to truly know him. In one adolescently hyperbolic verse, she'd referred to his wealthy upbringing as an affluent concentration camp where childhood was not tolerated. Reverend Newmark feels connected in a new way now to the people she has served for decades, who in a very different way have also suffered trauma and loss and rejection from their communities. She realizes that her grandparents turned away from their own faith and toward the Lutheran Church, her faith, for the sake of their children and future generations, for her. And she has to question whether that was the right choice. She refuses to judge it. But as a Lutheran pastor, she embodies this tangled, painful legacy, carrying its burdens and its blessings with her forever. Why, she asks, why is it so compelling to find connections between previous generations and ourselves? I think it may be because it makes our own lives feel less random, part of a larger design and pattern. Even if a person can't relate to past family members for any number of reasons, we belong to another vast community of those who have gone before us. We don't spring forth as autonomous beings responsible for and to only ourselves. What ancestral legacies are we living out? Early in my ministry, I attended a 3-day workshop based on the widely accepted theory that congregations operate like all human systems, starting with families. Family systems theory is used in medicine, psychiatry, psychology, social work, education, and much more. But before we could even talk about congregational life, we got personal. Each of us was required to present our own genogram to the group to better understand ourselves. A genogram is a pictorial display of our family relationships, those who raised us, connected biologically or not, going back at least several generations, knowing that not everyone is privileged to have access to this information about past generations. You look at what you know about each relative's personal situation: addictions, marriages, parenthood, careers, education, criminal history, health, and then you draw a line from each to another to show what their relationship was. Maybe your uncle had a totally fused relationship with his mother, both unable to act independently of the other. Maybe your father's sister was completely estranged from the whole family, though her son was best friends with one of his cousins. Your grandparents might have been apathetic toward each other, or best friends and loving, or distant and hostile, or close and hostile. Was there abuse or manipulation, generosity, acceptance? It's when you can start to see these relationships among those who came before that you get a sense of where you are in the ongoing story of a particular human system. Think about that in the context of this congregation as one example. Who were they who came here before most of you, those who founded this congregation in, I believe, 1967? And I believe that most of those were Unitarians from All Souls in Kansas City, which itself was founded by abolitionists just after the Civil War. So what about all the members who have faithfully kept this church going so you might inherit it? What were their relationships with each other, with the larger community? Was there love and courage and conflict, generosity and disappointment? How did you become the Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church of 2025? What might your church forebears have to teach you as you move forward? In the context of any human system, we are tempted to reject parts of a legacy that we don't like, that we're ashamed of. Think the fight among Americans about critical race theory. Do we all really need to know the truth about the tragic enslavement of Africans in this great nation? It's painful. It's shameful. It might make some white people feel bad. And yes, we do need to know. Regardless of which past we're confronting, there's real spiritual maturity in embracing those ancestors who fell short. And they all did, of course. Better to see ourselves as part of a much larger story, each of our ancestors progressing toward wholeness as best they could, which was not much in some cases, or sometimes they created great harm along the way, but their story didn't end. Because here we are. It's ours now to take what was passed down to us and write the next chapters, hoping that our story's in a little better shape before we hand it on to the next generations. It's a spiritual exercise to develop compassion and understanding for those whose lives directly or indirectly shaped ours. And we hope those who come after will have compassion and understanding about us when they find out way more than anyone needs to know about our thoughts and opinions and food choices and relationships and questionable senses of humor in the early 21st century, which will all live on in cyberspace long after we're around to explain ourselves. I'm only just now beginning to understand the relationship I had with my father, who died when I was 46. When I became a young adult and he retired, we argued a lot, sometimes bitterly, almost always about issues. Vietnam, Watergate, his love of the military, sexism, racism. I had a lot of unconscious anger about our disconnection. He was the parent I really wanted to get close to. But every time we got together, one or the other of us would casually yet deliberately mention some button-pushing thing, and we'd be off. Just at the end of his life, he reached out to me to express his regrets and love. I responded appropriately, I hope, but I don't know if I was really able to hear it then. And I wonder now how safe that felt to him, he who had such a hard time being openly affectionate or vulnerable. I knew my father had served in World War II. He hated Japanese people. He said under the layers of civility, they were capable of extreme cruelty. But he sure did love almost all things German. having studied German in college and spent time in Germany. He also hated anti-Semitism, at one time threatening to give up his membership in his prestigious tennis club if they persisted in refusing Jewish members. So they changed that policy. The extreme illogic of all this pushed all my buttons, but he stuck to it defiantly. In retaliation, the biggest, most reliably explosive button I knew how to push was to passionately condemn the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. More than 200,000 old people, women, children, slaughtered, such pure evil. He would be livid. I'd be self-righteous. It would never end well. So 10 years ago, out of the blue, I get an email from Rutgers University, my father's alma mater. They wanted my permission to publish an interview that their oral history archives department had done with him 2 years before his death, part of a program to help students and scholars benefit from the stories of alums who served in World War II. Rutgers had sent an archivist to Kansas City to interview my dad. Okay, what? I didn't know this interview existed. The attached PDF file was 120 pages long. So, I read about my father's childhood, his time at Rutgers, his volunteering for the Marine Corps after graduation, and being sent to serve on a ship in the Pacific. As the war went on, he had several near misses, just being in the right place at the right time. In response to the interviewer's question, he said he'd never really felt fear because he'd been pretty lucky. I kept reading. It was 1945, and he was 26. He got orders to serve on a warship in the Philippines. In July, the ship started out to go bombard Hong Kong when the word came, stop, go back to Subic Bay. We didn't know why, he said, but we went back, and then we're told, we're going to invade Japan, and this division, along with the minesweepers, is going to lead the task force of 1 million men. His luck had run out. He said he was thinking, it's finally caught up with me. They were all likely to die. 2 days later, the interviewer goes on. There's all this yelling and screaming. The interview goes on with my father saying, there's all this yelling and screaming and shouting, and somebody said they dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima, so we never made the invasion. I'd never heard of an atomic bomb, but it sure sounded good to me. I'd been reading for hours. It was after midnight when I read this part, and this truth suddenly slammed through my grogginess, and I got it. I'm probably alive today, and my brother and my son and my 2 grandchildren, because 200,000 old people, women, and children died in horrific conflagrations 5 years before I was born. My dad told the interviewer what he'd never told me. And now this is part of my legacy. A burden, a blessing, both. What to make of this story that my father indirectly handed to me that I now need to make sense of. And surely it's the way of the world that some die so that others might live, but now it's personal and all mixed up with compassion and forgiveness and horror and regret. As a minister called to justice work, what will be the legacy here that I have to carry forward toward more complex understanding, more awareness, toward some sort of healing? These will always be unanswered questions. But this new knowledge is a gift from my father's life. It's a blessing and a burden, because there's an obligation that comes with understanding that I, right now, right here, am the embodiment of the sum of my ancestors' life. As we're all the embodiment of our ancestors' lives, and all their acts of courage, of fear, of compassion, of ignorance, we own it now. the good and the evil that came before that got us to this moment. We can't not accept this costly inheritance. So how will we carry it forward? Knowing that future generations will have to accept whatever we leave to them. Right now, we're struggling to at least contain this massive dumpster fire, but we are not the first to struggle, and this is neither the first nor the most massive dumpster fire. I love these words by poet Chelan Harkin. I will close with this. Your ancestors have passed down their wounds like a growing collection of gems for your inheritance. Don't resent this. They weren't ready to be mined and collected. They weren't ready to be valued. You have the technology now. You know how to dig deep. You know that within every bright, shining wound is a nugget of compassion, a jewel of wisdom they have saved up for you. Now feel deeply blessed to be driven, finally, into those inner tunnels of self and history. Cashing in this trove will transform the heavy bag of sorrows your ancestors carried into tokens of priceless light.
The work of the church depends on us, our generosity of time, wisdom, and financial resources. We invite you to give generously to support the ongoing work of the church. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared values.
From the beauty
I chose our closing hymn, and I thank you to Dan and the choir for indulging me. It's for all the saints, as it has special meaning for me. The first time I sang it, it was with almost 5,000 other UUs from all over the world at my first General Assembly. America was preparing to invade Iraq. There was hope, but also grief and despair permeating that ballroom, and we were gathered to celebrate the annual Service of the Living Tradition, remembering all those who came before, passing the light of the flaming chalice into our care. Will you join me?
Let us affirm. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
The words of my colleague, Barbara Peskin. Because of those who came before, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of and in spite of the horizons of their vision, we too dream. Let us go remembering to praise, to live in the moment, to love mightily, to bow to the mystery. Go in peace.